can even lie down. It's that kind of an event. You can bring your coffee, because if you doze off or you start to yawn, it wouldn't look good here, you know. But you can lie down if you can handle it.
And if anybody wants to earn brownie points, they can bring a panelist a filter coffee with a bit of milk.
Not to be specific.
No brownie points apparently.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so welcome everybody to this informal gathering. This is an official panel, but we don't want it to be panel, just the three of us talking. We want to encourage everybody into this discussion, which I will call a journey. So we will be on a journey today. And we will start from imagination, and hopefully we will end with imagination. And this is actually a setup for what will be happening tomorrow evening. So whatever you hear, whatever you see, whatever you think about the things we're going to talk about, you will try it out tomorrow night. So this is just the beginning. We've called this little talk and gathering and panel according to a certain book. It's called Rumors of a Better Country. So before I introduce my colleagues, friends, speakers here, this is a journey. And when we say a better country, there are a lot of movies and books that depict going, walking, searching a better country. Any of those come to mind? This guy and me are a big movie and book lovers. So please, there's nothing you can say that we haven't seen, even those you are not supposed to see.
Wow.
Really?
Here's a brownie
People
point for you.
on a walk, looking for somewhere better to live. So many settings. Nothing comes to mind? Promised Land. Okay, so you have a lot of those ideas in a lot of those movies. Anybody seen Narnia? Yeah, that doesn't come up. Anybody seen Walking Dead? They're constantly searching for a better country or better town where nobody will eat them or a zombie won't kill them. You have those a lot going on. Or The Truman Show.
Oh, that's right.
That's a good one.
Yeah? So he will look for a better, more truthful country. Sorry?
Yeah.
Yes, yes, absolutely. So there's an idea there.
The Titanic, anyone?
Titanic. So we are going to look for that better country, and you will see how. But before that, I want to introduce my two colleague speakers' friends. One of them is not a big fan of East and West. And one of them is a smuggler. Which one do you think which is? Who's the smuggler and proud of it? And who's not a big fan of East and West? What does he smuggle?
Wow.
That would give the game away.
Did I?
Yeah.
So, what do you think? Who's the smuggler?
Well, we don't know, do we?
Oh, we don't know.
No.
So Ace, Aleksandar Apostolovski, our old professor,
Exactly.
Old Testament professor, is what he loves to say, and I let him say, he is from
The southernmost northern country in Europe.
southernmost northern country in Europe, from North Macedonia, which is in south. So he's not big a fan of East and West. And we have with us the greatest smuggler.
Well, I wouldn't go that far.
I mean, that's how conversion stories go anyway.
So our friend Marsh Moyle, with his wife, spent decades smuggling Bibles and books during communist era. and maybe you are descendants or even received one of those in those times. And of course, Marsh is much more than that, and I hope you will get to know him through his talk. And I'd say he's much more than the sliker of East and West, but let's start with that because we are on a journey. And we will go from imagination. And I will let Marsh introduce the video we are going to see, and then ask you some questions so we can navigate this journey of ours.
Okay. Well, I'm delighted to be here with you to introduce you to these ideas, which I have found extremely helpful in my own thinking and my own living for all sorts of reasons which may become apparent in the next hour or so. I'd like to introduce you to a piece of art which has also been very helpful to me, but I need you to, because you're not going to be passive observers during this time, you're going to be active participants, I hope. There's some questions on this sheet about the piece of art you're going to see. And interestingly, we're sitting by this piece of art by Liviu Mocana. He also did the piece of art that you're going to look at. And I adapted it for my purposes because it's a very heavy piece of work of bronze and marble. And when I'm at home, I put the piece on the table and I say to people, what do you see? But it is so heavy, I cannot lift it on my own. So the idea of bringing it here to you is absolutely unthinkable. So I made a film, or I had a friend make a film. The filmmaker is Czech, and she helped me put this together. And what I want you to do is, as you're looking at it, it's a very short film, it's about 8 minutes long. I want you to look at the questions. Does everybody have the piece, or are we?
They will, not yet.
You will, okay. Get yourselves familiar, first of all, with the questions, and then we'll have a look. Maybe once. If we need to, we'll do it twice, because it's not very long. And then you'll meet in groups of 4 for a few minutes, just to answer the questions for yourself, and then we'll have a bit of a dialogue. Is that all right? Excellent. All I need to do now is press the button to go.
That's why we have Philip. He's excellent at pressing buttons.
I'm excellent at pressing buttons.
You heard that, huh?
Yeah.
I need your best one.
You need my finger.
I need your finger.
That should be.
Yeah, it's okay.
All right, so your concentration, and take a pencil, write down. These are for you to keep. There you go. Okay, if you could take a few minutes, maybe just a minute by yourself. If you could take a minute by yourself and try to answer the questions on the paper, and then I'll ask you to turn to the person or people next to you and talk about what you saw, what you answered, what you thought, and then we'll have a bit of a broader discussion, if that's okay? All right.
It's okay.
I don't have a watch.
I can see. I
Okay.
can see the time.
Do you have the questions anywhere? Thank you. Okay, turn to one another and have a discussion about what you saw in these questions. What did you see?
Oh, I remember the first time I saw it.
You saw, okay, yeah.
In Wheaton. In Wheaton.
Oh, right, of course.
Yeah,
All right.
Wheaton.
Yeah. I forgot that I'd shown it there.
But I didn't see that, how it felt good inside.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I missed.
Yeah.
I noticed the 10 fingers, the man inside and all that, but it didn't feel, and that was my best point in the book, inside part.
Yeah.
How it feels good to be inside.
Yes, yeah. It's
It's very easy for me to answer the last question.
what do you not like?
The amount of shadows and the particular nuance of green.
That's fine, that's good.
And we go straight to envy then. Jealous. Green.
I hadn't thought of that, but yes. This is a psychological, this is a Roche test.
No, I've always disliked that sort of green. Poisonous green.
Kind of like olive green. Olive
Oh,
green?
no, it's not.
not olive
It's
green.
not.
No,
It's,
okay. What
It's,
kind of
it's
green?
it is a poisonous
very,
green.
yeah, very,
Yeah, you said that?
yeah.
Wow.
You know the colour I dislike the most are the colours of the cover of the book.
Prior to or since the publication.
Both. Both. Anyway. Good.
Yeah, let's
Shall
stir
we?
them up, yes.
Okay, let's hear from you. What did you see? If you need a
Just shout it out.
yeah, go ahead.
At the very beginning, it looked to me like a crown.
A crown.
Until then it started showing what's those, I would call them, now I noticed there are 10 of them, 10 pillars. I would call them pillars.
Okay.
Going round, that light in the middle obviously signalizes something bright, something good, probably. And I'm not sure whether it's from wood, those 10 pillars, but it seemed like a bronze color. Maybe.
Yeah, they're bronze. Yeah.
To me, it's interesting they're going really in circles.
Yeah.
That shape.
Okay. What did you see?
Our first impression was it's kind of cult around the candle. Yeah. And
What did you say?
Cult.
A cult.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when the camera was going on, it looked more like a hand.
Uh-huh.
It's like wounded on the outside, and inside was like a man who is like in the shelter of the.
Of the hand.
Yeah.
Okay. What else? What else did you see?
Two hands.
Two hands. Yeah. Yeah. Yes. Okay. All right. I've had people call them crabs' legs and frogs' legs and all kinds of things. So yeah. What else did you see?
I see men captured among other people's judgment or something.
Oh, wow.
I didn't hear that.
Like man captured by 10 people who are judging him.
Okay. Yeah.
Because he was like, I saw face like that.
Yeah. Yeah. There is something slightly fearful about it, isn't there? Yeah. How did it make you feel? Since we're talking about fear and feeling, disturbing.
Yeah, when you're not focusing on what you see, the sound is pretty pleasurable.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah.
What sounds did you hear?
Like I need an umbrella.
Like you need an umbrella. Yeah. Yeah. What about you?
Like calm music, and also there was a warm yellow colors, so it's like that warm temperature colors.
Yeah.
Made like kind of calm feeling.
Okay. Calm. Yeah.
Nowadays, these kind of videos are really popular on the internet. When you have a picture that is like bring you some kind of peace or memories or something, and ambient music around it, so people can relax, people can concentrate on something, can think about maybe remember something good or maybe bad that happened in their lives, and maybe to reconcile with themselves.
Did you remember anything?
Actually, not no, but I just know this kind of videos.
Okay. All right. Okay. Oh, what else did you feel when you were?
I think you talked about the inside, and I think I would feel like the power, the safety was inside. From on the outside, I would feel wonder and questions, like, I want to know more.
Mm-hmm. Which would you prefer to be, on the inside or on the outside?
Inside.
Inside. Anyone else?
Yeah, well, it is interesting if we watch the actors after the show, the light show,
Yeah.
the sculpture show, right? We see the protagonist, if you want to call him that. He, if I remember correctly, he's sitting somewhere and he's having his hands like this in the end, right? So this is his ego state, his self, and he's sheltering his emotions, his mind. Outside, I agree with Brian, absolutely. Outside is a mess, is a chaos, inside is a peace. And can you step out of the comfort zone and maybe meet the world outside of it, or are you going to be inside and sheltered? That's how I saw it.
Okay, thank you, thank you.
So because we saw a quote, so there is a people like worshiping or chanting for the man inside. So I will not like to be inside because I'm not.
Don't want to be chanted at. Okay. All right. Okay. What did you make? Sorry.
It's very interesting looking at you through this work process as an artist.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
the difference in the feeling is the one in the film feels very otherworldly.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that it's bronze, to touch it, I would think it would be cold.
Yeah.
Whereas the wood seems so organic, so warm, in some ways more inviting to taste, perhaps.
Mm-hmm.
But the bronze in the film is a little scary.
It is a bit scary. I find it scary, and I live with this thing every day. It's right there, and it sometimes inhabits my dreams. And yeah, it does feel very, from the outside, very intimidating. Those hands are sharp, claw-like things. What did you make of did you understand the two people? What were they doing?
I don't know, but
Go ahead.
Like man was said. And then I like saw ladies, they were like having fun, dancing, talking, and then she left and he became sad again.
Okay, all right.
I think he was lonely. I feel as he's in the middle of that fingers and hands, and he's safe there, but he's lonely.
He's safe there, but he's lonely. Interesting. Yeah, interesting. Anyone else? What else did you see? With
There is a difference in the color scheme. So when we have real life actors, we have a black and white picture, which is pretty cool, right? And while we are looking at the sculpture, we see warmth and color and nice, comforting music, right? So something probably bad is happening with the real life people.
okay, yeah. Yeah, it's either dancing. What else? Did anyone else have any other thoughts about it? Fighting. I couldn't hear you.
Verbally.
Arguing. So they're either dancing or they're arguing. They're doing one or the other. Or they're dancing while they're arguing, I don't know.
Well, I first thought that they're arguing, but then I was thinking to focus on the positive stuff, that they're actually talking and then celebrating that something that they were talking about, and then just to separate.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's interesting, isn't it, how similar the arguing and fighting and dancing can be, or can seem like from the outside. It's a fine line between the dance and the despair. I don't know about you, but my life sometimes is a little bit like that too. What did you notice the shadows?
Yep.
What did you see when you saw the shadows? Color? Yeah.
Yeah. The thing about the shadows is that the shadow doesn't have a substance, so it is a lack of light, it is lack of essence, right? And the shape changes. That's why someone said, oh, it looks like a pillar, it looks like a finger or something like that. We couldn't figure out what it really is because of this play between a shadow and light, right? So we're not sure what's actually, what we are seeing, right? What is the thing?
Yeah, you have this intuition, but it's not solid. There's no labels.
It's not a familiar object. It's not a familiar sight. Something strange.
Yeah. What is a shadow? What does a shadow do?
It's just is.
It's hard to explain. It's hard to explain.
Okay.
But it depends on the light and movement in the sun space, yes?
Mm-hmm.
So it's very hard for me to explain in English. So that's okay. It depends on the movement of the light, but also the objects in some space.
Yes, right. So it's an absence of light, but it's also something that points to something else. So you know something's there because you can see the shadow. You're not always quite sure what the thing is, but it seems to be something. It points to something. And I find that a very helpful concept of am I looking at the reality, the substance, or am I looking at the two-dimensional representation of a three-dimensional object? So am I looking at something where something is actually missing? And what is the thing that's missing? If I was to mistake you for your shadow, and I started to talk to your shadow, well, first of all, you'd think I was nuts, but it wouldn't be a representation of who you are. So, who liked it?
Yes,
Okay, one
there is
person
one.
liked it. That the rest of you didn't like it. Tell me what you thought about it.
I would like to see it in person first, because I really like to see it maybe on the photo or something. You have it after the class. So.
Yeah. It's actually on the back of the book here.
I'm gonna buy it. Don't worry about that.
You will
you don't have to.
the book.
That wasn't
You will get
the intention.
How big the original?
I haven't told you yet the original. The original is actually in Cluj, in Romania.
I thought that it's huge because of the shadows.
Yeah, and the original is 5 meters tall.
And the details that you made, that was like, wow, this has to be like something.
It's actually the one that's in here is just that tall, but it's a model of the one that's in Cluj, which is 5 meters tall and is quite intimidating. If you met it on a dark night, you'd want to run away probably. I don't know if I like this sculpture or not. I find it very, very interesting, very helpful for the thing that I'm trying to think about. But it's actually not that important whether I like it or not. It's effective. As a work of art, it's a wonderful thing. Do you want to say?
I just wanted to say it depends on what do you focus. Like if I focus on light, color, I feel nice. I feel pleasurable. I focus on sound, I feel pleasurable. But if I focus on the sculptures, they're creepy. I don't feel pleasurable.
Yeah, that's what they're creepy. They really are, and you're allowed to feel that.
It's in Romania.
Wait, is
okay, all right.
That's what I was going to ask.
Yes, then I can understand.
Is it?
It is.
Okay, well, it's interesting. The music. Did you notice the music at all? Did you see what the sound was doing? When it was on the outside, looking in, it was raining. When it was on the inside, it was fire. Did you hear the difference at all? It's very, very subtle, but it's there. It's there. What else did we want to say about it? What do you think the man was doing? I think it was a man anyway. They had a beard. Yeah, right.
I think this man is, in reality, the biggest man. Actually, he's shown like a small man, but in reality, it's the biggest. Because I have maybe some my interpretation of this, like these hands and these people outside can be God who created this world, and He gave His Son. His Son is in the middle, outside like these angels, and they are bigger, and He is the smallest one.
Oh, okay, that's an interesting interpretation. I don't know who the man is.
Yeah, and the shadow, I was thinking about the shadow. They're like, we are outside and looking at the shadow, and we are thinking, okay, that's immanent, but it shows us something transcendent.
Yeah. It's interesting how art speaks to different people in different ways, isn't it? Did you notice in the uprights, when the light was shining into them, what did you see?
Yeah, inside.
Inside. Did you see anything? Scratches. Well, the scratches are on the outside. On the inside, I'll tell you, if you look at each pillar, all the other pillars are visible in each pillar. It's a very interesting thing. You can actually see the other 9 in the one. And each of them, it does that sort of effect. So enough about that for the time being. I'm not sure where to go from here.
I think it's time to reveal.
Okay, what do you
where
think?
we are.
What do you think it represents?
As I said, I think it represents inner self, and try to keep the inner self safe from harm, maybe other people.
Okay, all right.
Think we are on a journey for a better country. This might something to do with it.
And some of you were told what this panel was about.
Some of you.
So if how many pillars were there? 10, okay. What, and on the inside, there's clearly an inside and an outside, right?
Well, there is a man and a woman arguing. There is emotions going on, and there is also sculpture of hands, and there is a man hands. There is a man sitting inside of those hands, and there is a man sitting holding his head. So maybe it's a man. It's something about emotional state of that man that was sitting.
Oh,
yeah.
Well, let me take you back to Genesis chapter 2, where it's said of where God says, after having said it's good, it's good, it's good, it's good, it's good, and then he says it's not good. What is not good? It's not good that a man should be alone. But how on earth do we live together? When you read that text for the first time, didn't that question come to your mind?
No.
How on earth do we, well, it came to my mind. It's not good that we should be alone, but how do we live together? And what is your answer to that?
By the grace of God.
By the grace of God.
Amen. And God gives something.
So it's an interesting thing, by the grace of God. One of the things I have noticed about certainly in my observations about life and about human relationships, is that we are very, very good at describing evil. We know what we don't like because we watch tons of TV where it's always there, always. We're very specific and concrete. But when we come to describe goodness, we become very abstract. Do you have that experience? You see on the news every day, they don't tell you the good news, they just tell you the bad news, the painful news, the news we should be afraid of. But they don't really tell you the good news. And my question has been, what is the good news? And how do we help, how do we live into it, first of all, for ourselves? So anyone want to guess what this might be about?
Go back to the number. Go back to the number.
We'll say
10.
Say a couple of things, maybe.
No, 10. Thank you.
Or as the words commandment. Let me do a quick thought experiment with you. Just think of the word commandment and think of the first word that comes into your mind. What? Pardon?
What am I thinking? The army.
Tablets. Okay. Tablets, pills.
Stone.
Positive or negative? Who's negative? Who has a negative, visceral, physical response?
The commandment.
To the word commandment. Yeah? Yeah. That's right. And I'm with you. I have the same experience. But Paul says in 2 Corinthians 3, this coming of this thing was glorious. And I'm looking at Paul and I'm saying, what on earth are you seeing? because it didn't seem terribly glorious to me. I had this picture of something quite negative. And so I began to wonder why that was. Whether my understanding of the word commandment and law and legal are actually very negative thoughts. That I need to confront and see what God has in mind. And that's really what this is about. How do I, what is so good about the news that I'm declaring?
Yeah.
Where's the glory in the story? That was my big question many, many years ago when I started to think about this. And I've been seeking it ever since. And so where do we want to go from here? Okay?
Let's look at this, look at these commandments, the law, again on a journey. So these instructions, let's call them by their real name as much as it's possible. These instructions were given to a bunch of people for them to have a better country. And if you look at ideally, and now what I love about Marsh's book and about this talk, and you will see tomorrow, shut down your cynicism if you can. If you can't, then imagination will be, it will stay in the box, right? So same goes with the Old Testament and the law, two harsh and hard words. So the instructions that were given to a bunch of people for them to have a better country, look at how this story might have ended. Ideally, beautifully, God in the midst, God with them, and them living their lives right according to God and according to each other in all the levels that is possible. Beautiful, right? Who doesn't want to do that? Sorry?
The Israelites.
The Israelites don't want to do that. And even if you look at sculpture, a lot of you mentioned fear. Now, whenever you have God encounter in the Bible, when you look at the patriarchs, and then especially when you look at Exodus 19 and 20, when God encounters people for the first time, their reaction is what? Fear, or awe, or reverence. So there is fear, like you can see with this sculpture. But then God says, okay, you're afraid, but do not be afraid. The one goes with the other. And then when we will talk about Marsh's journey, then we will get to the grips of what it means then to meditate on these instructions and whether we understand this word. But looking at the Old Testament story, so that's my portion of the journey, looking at this Old Testament story, I know that Atze already talked to you about David Noel Friedman and his concept of those 9 or 10 commandments not being fulfilled during the Old Testament story, from Exodus to 2 Kings, right? And the whole idea behind this, whether you agree or not with the author, is that when you come to the 2 Kings, you can see that this better country doesn't work. And if we want to look at it from that perspective, why did this country fail? Why Babylon happened? In a sense, he wants also to answer that story, that question. Why? Because these 10 pillars were not received, not accepted, in a sense, not fulfilled. So when we come from Exodus to 2 Kings, looking at each of the books and each of these commandments being, I'm lacking the word.
Na hrvatskom.
Prekršene.
Broken.
Broken. We can see step by step how they were kind of like leaving the better country behind them. In the end, there's the fall. Some of some of the worship offered by people to God in the Old Testament is instantly unaccepted. Think Cain and Abel. Think Aaron's sons. And so on and so on. This one was postponed until all of these 10, according to this author, were broken. So the idea of a better country was there with its pillars, and we can imagine, oh gosh, but why didn't they do this? Why didn't they just go through with these instructions? It's such good instructions for good life. But what we get to see from this perspective is how it looks like when these pillars, these instructions are broken. So this is what we can see just by looking at the Bible, looking at the real story, looking at the history of a bunch of people getting these instructions and not living according to them. That's them, right? That's not us. So now I will ask our northern southern guy to take us a little bit in maybe this same little bit sarcastic, cynical, we are still not imagining way of thinking when we look at maybe our law and when we look at our courts and criminal justice and when we look at those commandments and sin. So I'll give mic to Atsen and let him lead you to this.
Let me just go back first to something Marsh was saying about this whole notion of the media telling, giving us a pretty good notion of what is bad or even evil. There's a very important development around the middle of the 20th century when it came to talking about not just what the good was, but also what freedom was. This was, in many respects, a direct consequence of the horror that was World War II. Before World War II, many people, regardless of whether they considered themselves to be believers or otherwise, had a very clear notion of what is good. They had an image in mind whenever goodness was discussed. And the image usually boiled down to some version of Jesus Christ or another. After World War II, we lost our sense of what good looks like. Now, with everything that went on in genocide, in the Holocaust, in brutal killing on the battlefields, in ideologies clashing to ridiculous proportions, the role that Jesus played was supplanted because we no longer know what good is. We know very well what bad or evil is. So the role that Jesus played in defining good was taken over by this failed Austrian painter with the Charlie Chaplin mustache whose name escapes me at present. As a result, our notions of freedom also changed. And this is where any notion of quote-unquote law comes in with relation to the Ten Commandments. The kind of freedom we can live with is what Oxford philosopher Isaiah Berlin calls negative freedom. Freedom from coercion. Freedom from being forced into doing what you wouldn't want to do. Moral autonomy. In this way of looking at things, the fewer prohibitions you've got, the freer you are. Every do not limits your freedom. So once somebody looks at the Ten Commandments, all of them are expressed in negative terms, except for the fifth one: honor your father and your mother. So you've got 9 more bonds, 9 more limits to your freedom. From that point of view, you could ask, in legal terms, what are the commandments that somebody who believes in this sort of freedom would want in their lives? Remember, this is freedom from coercion, freedom from being forced to do what you wouldn't want to do. So let me throw it to you. Out of the 10, which do you think a modern person would want or need? And please think of each one of the 10 commandments in its fullness. Don't think of saying, oh, everybody would like to make sure that people don't tell lies in court, but outside court, certain forms of marketing are okay. So, yeah, feel free to contribute to this discussion by sounding either the number or the content of any of the 10 commandments that you think somebody who doesn't want their freedom to be impinged by outside sources. What should the law legislate for?
They get to pick only one?
Well, as many as they like, but...
one at a time.
No.
Do you mean which one would be the best to have?
No, which one would you like in that sort of a society? Which one would you put into law? Yeah.
Thou shalt not steal.
That's a good one. Yeah. Why? Because if you're part of the EU, you have an economy which is based on exchange and barter. You give something in order to get something, whether that's goods or services. If this is not enshrined in law, you haven't got an economic system.
I mean, you have, but it's not the one of exchange.
Exactly, it's the black market.
It's one of the most powerful rules.
Yep, it's well, any notion of monopoly not just the game that you can think of. Any other commandment?
I think it should be the first one, because if we put the first one that God is the highest authority, then the God is the only one who has the right to legalize any law or any commandment. Any person is not allowed to change it. Any law that is created by people can be changed by people. And when you say that God is the highest authority, then you cannot change any other rule that God introduces.
Well, I would respond by saying, what gives the state the power to say which deity will be worshipped? I mean, I tend to side with my own Anabaptist heritage. And the last thing I want to do is to allow the state to tell me what I can or cannot worship. One form of legalizing a particular religious perspective is called atheism. So any other commandment other than do not steal?
Do not lie.
Do not lie. No marketing industry.
Yeah, I mean, if everybody tells the truth, there will not be. I think there will not be any problems. And if somebody steals something, you ask him, "Did you see?" He'll say yes, and you can resolve it.
If you ask, "Are you okay?" but you're not, say I'm not okay.
Yeah,
maybe people don't want this.
I mean, if I was to channel my inner Isaiah Berlin, I would ask you, who determines what is true?
Have you seen the movie Chaos in My Head? I think that's the movie. Apocalyptic movie, where everybody can hear each other's thoughts.
I'd like to see that.
Yeah, make a note of that one.
It didn't went well.
Would anybody agree with me that we also want do not kill? Hopefully, unless the rumors of a better country is called zombie apocalypse. Taking of another person's life.
Okay, when we have a murderer or like a dictator who killed thousands of people, and is it okay to destroy them, for them not to do any more evil?
I'd say no.
Is it killing or not?
Mm-hmm. Any other commandments that a modern secular person would want? Actually, I think that one is a bit of a debatable issue.
Shabbat.
In our European, or at least Central European tradition, we've virtually always not worked, or at least on Sunday afternoons. And I'd say that's a good thing. But let me just say that a laborer should have a day off in the week is actually not the same as what the fourth commandment says. It's there in spirit, not in the letter. Anybody else?
I think number 10. You
Okay.
should covet your neighbor and all that, and then you'll be content. You won't murder, you won't steal, you won't be committing adultery. And that, like Paul talks about in Philippians chapter 4, right?
How do you prove it?
But then he says I can do all things through Christ, so there's that contentment and they're fulfilled in Christ. So it kind of covers the rest.
How do you prove it?
Carved images.
No.
Do we need those?
I'll get you all in. But Brian, two comments. Two comments, Brian. First, traditionally, that's how the 10th commandment has been interpreted. You cannot legislate for it, but it's at the root of violating all the other commandments. And then the other thing that my inner Isaiah Berlin would say to you, capitalism, bye-bye.
To the do not covet.
Yeah.
Again, a movie. Have you seen Minority Report? Where people are judged according to their thoughts before the crime is executed. And it's a huge debate.
Almer, you were saying about the second one? Do not make images. There is...
I said that, but I'm not sure about the Decalogue's canon. Are we going, what canon are we using? I've allowed myself a certain way of numbering. But yeah, let's, however you number, the commandment that says, thou shalt not make a graven image. There is, I think, a very interesting way in which you can make this work in a secular society as an ideology of progress, I guess. Assume that all laws that govern our lives in our current countries, whichever that may be, from Estonia to Cyprus and further, are man-made laws, designed by humans for humans. Ergo, they're not set in stone, and there's always the tendency of confusing laws made by humans with some sort of eternal values, which certain people nowadays call traditional values. So what you want, what the second commandment would say to you then, when it encourages you to smash images, is to say, in proper theological parlance, semper reformanda, keep changing. Keep evolving, keep moving. Find the dragons you need to slay on your way to freedom, especially in Berlin's categories. The freedom that increases your options by removing arbitrary prohibitions. Let me finish by saying that all of this is nice and interesting, and there are ways in which you can start with a Christian logic, of which more in a second, and arrive at this outcome, and start from a secular logic or a logic of common reason and arrive at the same outcome with regard to do not steal, do not kill, and maybe on this wacky interpretation that I gave you on do not make images. But I want to draw your attention to the fact that the logics which are being used by Christians and by proponents of common reason are not the same. A Christian, when looking at the Ten Commandments,
asks the question, what is sin here? I know that's a heavy, tricky theological term, even though it's so short in English and in many, many of the Slavic languages. Sin, for the purposes of this discussion, is violating the explicit will of God. Sin is something you do against God. The proponent of common reason, on the other hand, asks the question, what is a crime here? And that's how you would arrive at do not steal, do not kill. That's where these two reasons overlap. What is a crime? A crime is something you commit against the state in some systems, and in others, it's something you commit which runs counter to the principle that everybody is equal before the law, or the principle of the rule of law. These are two very different logics. The fact that they overlap a bit is a good thing. But is it enough to start imagining, to start dreaming of a better country?
Yeah, good point. Okay, so our second stop on this journey, which Ace took us through, is where we are right now. Reality, laws, countries we come from, realities of sin, and then realities of you shall not or you'll go to prison. And whatever each one of you wants to put in the law. I know I have several things I would like to put in the law, but maybe you won't like it. Same goes vice versa.
Give us at least one or two.
You can ask my husband. There are a bunch of things which involve colors of the houses and stuff like that. Speed limit. Now is the time that we look at these 10 pillars, fingers, the light in it, the man in it, a little bit broader and from a different angle, and for you to start imagining. And I want to give mic to Marsh first, just to talk us through his own journey.
Okay, sure.
How did you come up to this?
I painfully wrote this book over a number of years because while I am a practicing Christian, I'm not very religious. And I don't find religious practice very helpful. You may be shocked at that, I don't know. And but I find religious association quite difficult because I'm interested in life and art and beauty and all sorts of things which many religious communities are very suspicious of. And so I have always had this deep cynicism about the Christian church, not just because it can be a difficult place to live, but because it doesn't seem to enjoy human life. In fact, the division between being human or being Christian and non-Christian, which seems to be primary for so many people, overshadows something that I think is very important, that God made us to be human beings and to enjoy human life. He didn't make me a Christian, he made me a human. And my problem is I can't be human enough. And I fail at being a good human being. And good is more than just a narrow moral set of rules that things I can't do. And I was once in the town of Brno in Czechoslovakia, as it was then. This was under deep, dark communism. And I was there to visit some people who were receiving books from us. And I went with a friend to the pub one evening on a Friday night. It was the winter, it was cold, it was just beginning to snow outside, and the pub was absolutely jammed with people. And we sat at a table. It was the only table that was free, and there were a couple of other seats at the table. And as is the habit in those places, some people came in and sat down and said, "Can we sit there?" So we said, "Sure." And then, thank you. They didn't look very Czech. I mean, neither did I was English, but they didn't look very Czech. And I said, "Where are you from?" in English, and they said, "We're from Palestine." And so if someone says they use the word Palestine, you know they're probably not Israeli. And I said, "Well, what do you do?" And they said, "We are with the Palestinian Liberation Organization," which back in those days was a registered terror organization. And so I swallowed, and well, it's really lovely to see you. And I believed, and always have believed, that Palestinians and everyone else should have the right to their own home country. And so I said to them, "Do you mind if I ask you a question?" And they said, "Well, what is it?" And I said, "Well, what is your dream? You're Palestinian. What is the thing that gets you up? What is your dream? Why are you being trained? What is your passion?" And they told me about what it would be like to have their own country, to be able to vote and to make laws and to do all sorts of things that autonomous people can do together. Now, I come from a country which has a very long history of freedoms and democracy and in various shapes and forms. And I think everyone should have some of the freedoms that I've enjoyed in my life, although I'm actually losing many of them over the last 10 years. I think we're in danger of losing some of them. But that's a different story. I said to these guys, so tell me your dream, and they started, and they were passionate. They really got excited. And then as they were talking, another question came into my mind, which I was afraid to ask them, but I did ask them. And I said, "Okay, that's really wonderful, and I hope you get your dream. But what's going to make your country any different than Israel?" And it was like hitting them with a hammer. Because I said, "What's going to stop murders in your country?" There are murders in Israel. What's going to stop people from stealing? I didn't have the commandments in my mind at the time. But I did have some basic parameters for moral decency in my mind. And I said, what's going to make your country a better country than Israel? And they were stunned, and I was stunned, because I was thinking of this question. So what in the world is that? And where in the world would you find it? And we started then to talk about what a better country might be. And we all got a little bit excited and a bit cynical at the same moment. Because the more we thought about it, the less we believed that we had the capacity to reach it. And we talked about it, then we changed the subject and probably talked about girlfriends and things like that, and we went on our separate ways. But the question stuck with me. And then afterwards, I don't know when, I began to ask myself, when I pray the Lord's Prayer, "Your kingdom come, your will be done on earth," what on earth am I praying for? There used to be a time in British tourism when when we would go to Spain, nowadays it's absolutely common to go to Spain, but there was a time when they would be advertising the hotels, but the hotels hadn't been built yet. So you'd get there and you'd discover the hotel was going to be built next year, and you didn't have a place to stay. That was in the early days of mass tourism. Now there's no place to build any more hotels. They're all, you know what it's like. But in those days, you looked at the brochure and you hoped it would be like that when you got there. And I started to think about the Lord's Prayer in those terms. What's it like? And how on earth, what magic has to happen in my life that I would be a different person? And if I got there, would I like it? Would it be worthwhile? And so I began to, a little bit of urgency. What is this? Is it going to be just an eternal church service in the sky when you die? And that worried me because I wasn't a great fan of Christian music. And you get and I've had in my life, I've had to really work hard against being a cynic. I am a recovering cynic still, and I still find it surging in my heart. And a cynic is a person who claims to know. They make the final judgment about what is real and what is right. A romantic is a person who doesn't make a claim to knowledge, they make a claim to power. I will create what is right. So in my book, Hitler and Lenin were romantics. But then I started, because I'm a faithful reader of the Bible, and I believe the Bible is true. And whatever we mean by that, I came across this in Colossians, where it says, "Therefore let no one pass judgment on you in questions of food or drink, or with regard to Sabbath or new moon or festival. These are a shadow of the things to come." And I began to think about this concept of a shadow. What is a shadow? We said a two-dimensional representation of a three-dimensional reality. So I began to understand this thing that we call Old Testament law, which is very hard to define in modern terms, so that you get a feel for what is really meant by. This thing is just a shadow, the whole thing. And what I need to be doing is looking for the dimension that is missing. And of course, when you look at, when you read the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus tells you, you've heard it said it's this big, but I say to you it's this big. And I started to then say to myself, well, what is the this big of each of these commandments? Each of these 10 instructions, these 10 words. And tomorrow night we're going to try and explore some of that in small groups, so very interactive. And so you won't be listening to me all that much. But the idea which you read about in Colossians, but also in Hebrews in a couple of places, that this is a shadow. And we have to find the substance. And the substance will lead us to freedom. I am the Lord your God, who brought you out of Egypt, out of the land of slavery. In other words, if you follow this correctly, you will be free. And freedom is something that I've always intuited that I wanted, but I didn't know what it was. And it's often the definitions that stumble us, isn't it? I grew up in the age of the Beatles, and the Beatles said, all you need is love. And who could argue with that?
You still do.
All you need is love. But what I discovered was, what they really meant was, all you need is sex. Yeah. And that's great for the men, it's less great for the women. And so that couldn't be right. And so these things which promise us the earth and don't deliver anything at all. Many of the social problems that we have in our present time, just think of the Me Too generation, come from our misunderstanding of absolutely core human values. like freedom. And I much prefer Simone Weil's understanding of the concept of freedom. She said, you are free when you can implement your yes and your no. Wow. I stand in front of the fridge at 11 o'clock at night and I say, I want to be thin. And I'm not free. And my next conscious thought is, isn't this delicious? I'm not free. And it was for freedom that Christ set you free. Well, I want to be able to implement my yes and my no. But my will is bound. Bits of it anyway, damaged, corrupted, corroded, and I want to be free. So I've been looking for this better country, and this is all an advert for tomorrow night, to be honest with you, so to get you to come and to bring your imagination with you. Because the second commandment, I think, is about the imagination. This is, don't make images to bow down to them, but don't stop using, where does an image come from? An image comes from your imagination. And the imagination is an absolutely wonderful thing. And it's an absolutely terrifying thing. Because if you wake up in the night as a child and you say, is there a bear under my bed? And you feel real feelings, even if the bear isn't there. And if you go down a dark alley, or if you're at home alone and you hear some strange noise in the dark, those are real fears that you fear. And so a wonderful thing to create buildings and art and all sorts of things can also terrify you and intimidate and cause superstition. And how does that natural thing that we all know exists, how is it reined in? And the next commandment about language, don't use the name in vain. Which interestingly, in England, I'm at L'Abri, and L'Abri has a tradition that every lunchtime we have a lunch discussion. So we sit around a table, 10 or 15 people to a table, and I will say, what would you like to talk about? And we start to talk. And every now and again, some young 18-year-old American kid will say, am I allowed to swear? Using bad language or something. Because he's been taught that that's what that commandment means. And we have a long discussion about which words would be acceptable in your church, and usually there's about 10 or 20 words that you can't use. And I say, what about the idea if you're swearing every time you use a word and you don't know its meaning? Don't take the name in vain. Don't hollow the name out so that it's empty. So any language that you use that is empty of meaning is swearing. And the corollary of that is any language you use that is full of meaning and rich is speaking, is honoring the name. It's interesting ideas. Anyway, I want to encourage us to pursue some of those ideas tomorrow. Go ahead.
Can I follow up with a question?
Sure.
Can I ask you both a question then? Just then you can follow up and then comment. So we have looked at the sculpture. It's bronze, heavy. You said it's very heavy. Just looking at the picture and how we perceive the law again, can you comment on the prepositions in terms of being outside of the law, under the law, or in the law?
Okay, do you want to go first?
I think this is...
Mike.
I had a further question for you, so maybe...
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll do this question first, because what most Christians are terrified of when we start talking about the 10 commandments or instructions or whatever you call them is legalism. And you've all been in churches where you've been told to get your hair cut, or not to wear this clothing, or not to play that musical instrument, or some other minor infringement of social etiquette. And I've come to believe that the more you meditate on the law, and David thoroughly recommends it, and maybe the little man in the center is David. I'm not sure, because Liviu didn't tell me, and I don't think he knows. He just knows it's a man. But he meditates on the law day and night. And I ask myself, what on earth is he thinking about? That he would be meditating on the Lord day and night. And it's like a lamp unto my feet. It's like, what was he experiencing? What was he on? Because it certainly wasn't like that to me. Until I started to think of some questions that I'll give you tomorrow, which were helpful to me to start meditating. And then the standard of the law doesn't get lower, it gets higher. And then I realized that the legalist is lowering the standard so that he can fulfill it. And it's like me doing the high jump. If you look at me, you don't think I am going to climb very high over a very high bar. I'm going to need, if I'm going to get over the bar at all, it's going to be so low that it's really not worth going over anyway. And much of our legalism is meaningless social behavioral modification. It has nothing to do with the glory of God and the goodness of God or the character of God. It's just what you can get away with and what you can accomplish in your own strength. And for me, the glory of this thing is that I cannot fulfill the law. I absolutely cannot. But I desperately want it to be real. So Jesus says, hunger and thirst after righteousness. But you're not going to be able to do it yourself. And that is absolutely the center of what it means to be in Christ. That Christ is in me, and by his power, my life is made complete. We were never ever supposed to live this life alone. And it's not good that man should be alone, but how do we live together is the fundamental question of all politics. And it's right there in the second chapter of Genesis. And if you're not involved in that question, then you're not involved in human life. And Christ invites us in to enter into that abundant life. So what's so abundant about it? If we can't answer that question, then we haven't begun to understand what the gospel is.
Well, just let me comment on what Marsh just said. This whole issue of legalism, I would say, is taking sin less seriously than it's supposed to be taken, which should be ironic, because in mandating men and women how they should dress or what sorts of hairstyles they should wear and all the rest, you think you are living to a higher standard. What you've done, according to a former Anglican Bishop of Durham, is you've just moralized your anthropology. You're not dealing with morality, you're dealing with moralism, which is a long list of minor adjustments that you've somehow convinced yourself, if I can just tweak this, a revolution is going to happen. Forget it. My follow-up question to your presentation was to put the two things together. You began by being passionate about being human, and then you went to the Ten Commandments. What does it mean to be human according to the Ten Commandments?
Okay. It means to be alive, to life. It means to be alive in all aspects of your life, to all other people in your life. And this, when you understand it correctly, is the means by which you can live together. The fundamental problem with human beings is that we can't trust one another. And if you can't trust someone, well, let me start at another place. All human knowing about other humans, so everything you know about human beings that is of any value, you know through revelation. God is personal. All personal knowledge comes through revelation. You know about me what I reveal to you. Is that a fair statement? So, if all interpersonal knowledge comes through revelation, who do you reveal yourself to? You reveal yourselves to people who you trust. And if other people aren't trustworthy, you won't reveal yourself. And then three things will happen that are happening in our time. Firstly, you will get lonely. And did you know that we in Britain now have a ministry for loneliness, a political division of the government to help people not feel so lonely? Then you will have problems of identity, because persons get to know who they are in reaction to other persons. I am not an individualist. I don't believe individualism is healthy. And I'm not a communalist. I don't believe communalism is healthy. Both leave out something of substance in what it means to be human. And so in our interaction, I get to know who I am. And you get to know who you are. And since you and you and you are all different, I become richer in the engagement. And so trust is the oil that makes that happen. But what is the basis on which we can trust one another? And I believe a proper understanding of that Old Testament parameter with the third dimension, the dimension of the life of God in it, that we'll talk about tomorrow, is the basis on which you can trust another person. And our lack of understanding the law, because we have poor theology about it, means we don't explore, we don't meditate on it enough to know that it's glorious and it actually is the foundation for trust. And economically, if you have trust in a society, high trust societies do far better than low trust societies. And there's a huge amount more we could talk about. The whole issue of trust is another subject, but it is absolutely essential. And the whole purpose about I am more alive when I'm living in relationships of trust. You think of the bad relationships you have and how much energy they take from you. Those good relationships of deep trust are liberating, and they are what life actually is. That's yeah.
So tomorrow, when we meet at 7 p.m., this place will look more like a coffee shop for you to be relaxed, to drink, and to talk among yourself, and to dream. You will get a certain commandment, instruction, and you will dream how it will look like if that dream if that commandment is completely obeyed and fulfilled in all levels of society. So this is what we are going to dream about tomorrow. And I want to put just 2 glimpses by asking Marsh from 2 specific commandments or concepts he uses, just to see how broad we will go. So Marsh, you use the word cannibalism 2 times when looking at thou shalt not murder, but also that thou shalt not covet.
Right.
Just take us through both of these.
Okay, I can't remember what I said about the cannibalism in murder.
I can.
Okay, maybe we're over to you. You just give us, give me enough time to remember it.
In his book, Marsh is obviously expanding to the New Testament and Jesus' teaching on the murder. You shall not call anybody a fool. And just by giving somebody a name or...
That's right, I got it now.
You got it now? You want to continue?
I have a very bad memory. If you call someone a fool, he may be a fool, but he's not only a fool. He's never only a fool. He's all sorts of other things as well. I'm a fool, goodness me. There's lots of things I do that are really foolish, but I'm not only a fool.
Yeah.
So,
and there is a holy fool in Eastern Orthodox tradition as well.
Yeah, that's right. But in the final command about coveting, you have this picture of I become strong by devouring you. That is the essence of what the idea behind cannibalism. It's not because you need new vitamins and more calories. It's because you devour the spiritual energy of the other person. That's what's happening in those cultures that practice that. And it's interesting that in Galatians, Paul says, do not covet because you will devour one another. And he's recommending that devouring each other is not the best way of getting spiritual energy. And yet, it is one of the ways we use to try to empower ourselves. It is one of those hidden things that no church leaders ever talk about, but goes on all the time. And Jesus says, eat me. We'll talk about that more tomorrow.
So as you can see, the talk about murder and talk about covet won't stop with just murder and covet. You can dream how it would look like if nobody gives you a name and thinks about you only in that one term and definition and kills the rest of you. So I appreciated that very much, especially this weekend. And just to throw another concept, so Marsh and his wife Tula traveled a lot for the past 30 years, not just smuggling the books, but building up a lot of publishing houses for those books to be printed and translated. And while they were traveling, they were kind of going back and forth from what we could say individualistic societies to the communalist societies. And he looks back and forth from both perspectives throughout a lot of these commandments and concepts. And one that stuck with me and maybe will resonate with young people is honor your mother and father through that concept. Do you remember what you wrote?
Yeah, I think I remember. This one is written on my heart. Because when you read the commandments, honor your mother and father that you may live long in the land the Lord your God has given you, it sounds great. Why not? I mean, but what happens if your mother and father aren't honorable? I work in a place, L'Abri. Half the people there come with their mother and father problems, and we have to work through them. And if I said to them on day one, honor your mother and father, they would just walk out the door and never come back. Because their mother and father are the problem. At least that's how they understand it. And so what does that actually mean in practice for modern people? Or for people from any age for that matter, because it's a problem. And as we get through our families, our parents, are line to our history, and unreconciled history is a part of all of the problems of that we are facing in the world. The problems of Palestine and Israel are unreconciled history from way back. The problems in Russia and Ukraine are problems of unreconciled history from way back. And so what does it mean to reconcile? What does it mean to, and this is not a simple question. What does it mean to honor someone who is deeply dishonorable and has done you wrong? And that's also part of what we'll be exploring tomorrow. But the suspense will be killing you.
Did First Peter say honor everyone?
It goes much beyond honor anyone who reflects the image of God. But I had this special relationship with my parents that is quite unique. And for me, it was a matter of really wrestling through. My parents were fairly honorable, decent people, but even I didn't get away unharmed. And I've had to listen to hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of stories of people's stories that were far, far worse than mine. And what does it mean to honor someone who is not honorable? And at a deep level of what is going on there. That's perhaps what we're going to talk about a bit tomorrow too. All right.
So let's give a last invitation, because these people will have a good night's sleep, can think through actually about some of the things they will discuss in their groups. So what would you recommend? How should they meditate maybe tonight while we prep for tomorrow? Cafe now and not yet. What's that? Any last word?
Well, actually, as a part of something else, I'm currently reading two very influential authors precisely on the imagination. So I will give you two snippets from both. One of them is Tolkien, who talks about the concept of eucatastrophe. This is realizing that things are horrible, but never accepting final defeat. This is why Christianity and tragedy cannot stand together. We're looking for something beyond any notion of a final defeat. The other author is Walter Brueggemann, who looks at the imagination from a very different perspective, but who likes to ground it in God's capacity to shape thoughts before he performs actions. When we imagine, when we shape thoughts before we proceed to actions, we are behaving as images of God. We are performing what theologians call imitatio Dei.
Okay. I will give you the question that we're going to talk about tomorrow. You'll be in various groups. and we'll have tea and all the pleasant things in a cafe. And you will be thinking about this question: what would change economically, sociologically, and psychologically if everyone decided to keep this particular commandment that we have in front of us? And you'll be in groups and you'll do that for an extended period of time. Economically, sociologically, psychologically, how do we feel in our pocket? What does it cost us? How do we feel? How do we relate to one another? And how do we feel within ourselves? What would change? And that is the kind of imaginative tension that we're going to work through in each of these 10 areas. And you'll be in different groups and you'll only have to deal with one of them. And then you'll listen to other people discovering for themselves in other areas. You'll report back to one another. And then I'll give a few areas that probably you may or you may not reach. But that's really what we're going to do tomorrow night. Yeah.
Well, and my final thought would be, the world already gives you an answer when you don't look at these instructions, how the issue of a search for a better country looks like and how it fails. And it's in apocalyptic movies and TV shows. Because all of them are trying to explore how should new society look like after everything is collapsed. Directors, book writers, actors, they're trying to figure it out. What's the best way, how to live when everything collapses. And each and every time they fail. And we know that. And we are definitely invited for something more. And we definitely need to explore our imagination, which is given to us by God. So come tomorrow, leave cynicism out in the hallway.
And leave romanticism out of it.
Leave romanticism out of it. Okay. And come and have fun. We'll have a discussion.
Great.
And right now you have 10 minutes to early supper and then more vigorous schedule.
Okay.